Who's next?
Okay, so my name is Lila Reynolds. This is my entire Ikebana
A little louder,
portfolio.
a little louder.
It's a little
Good.
bit more detailed than what I would suggest maybe to a client, but I'm going to take you through my design process of my lessons. So this was my first introduction to clay. The box right here to the top left was my first ceramic piece ever. It was a really stretch for me, pretty difficult for the first time. And then we did the tube as well. And then I have my sump pulp as well. I then experimented a little bit more with, I'm sorry, I have my sump pulp here. I experimented a little bit more with the thickness of my clay on this one and the shape of it, as well as the texture. This was our Ikebana research before we met with the clients. We did research into the history of Ikebana and just the cultural beliefs and how the user will be using them, the aesthetics, the traditional, where they're used. This is on the bottom, it's a little bit more thorough detail. This is my ideation sketches and my models. This was my first idea. On the bottom left, I did a little bit more traditional exploration, and then on the rest, I experimented more with more geometric shapes that I was looking for, and just the idea that I was going for. I was thinking, again, a winter theme. I thought of trees in the wintertime, just the shape of their branches and the shapes that they give off. This is the Huntington Library. We got a little bit of a feel for the plants and the atmosphere that these pieces will be at.
No.
The client notes and the mission got to know a little bit more of what they'll be looking for and what they'll be wanting in our design. We also did the method for definition keyword distillery with my partner. It really helped to narrow down the key points of what I wanted to illustrate in my designs, and kind of helped me before I began the process a little bit more thorough. This was the final development model. I opened it up a little bit more to give it more of a more Ikebana style. It's supposed to display more water and just show a little bit more natural theme. This is the preparation for the vessel. The idea of what I was going for is just building it upside down and attaching pieces to it. This was a huge experiment, and it worked fairly well. It took a really long time to construct. It would have been as successful as I hoped, but it was certainly and this is the final photos of my vessel. The preparation, just the steps that I took and the problems I found along the way. This was my second vessel. I tried to address the problems from the first vessel and just experimented with a solid slab and changing the shapes from there. My third vessel, this same problems, but I wanted to make it a little bit stronger. It seemed the single slab from the second one was just a little too thin and wasn't supportive enough, so I tried to attaching a few less pieces, but a little bit more stable. This one turned out a little bit more successful, and it's also open. I used a mold that was a lot more flat and kept the pieces from cracking, which was a lot more successful. And then from there, I realized that I needed to experiment a little bit more in the preparation photos. My first few pieces, I really looked at making a themed piece and looked too much at the design, not enough at the material. So these two bottom ones on the left and the right are my next ones that I just really let the clay do a little bit more work for me and a little bit thinner. And I think they turned out a lot more successful. This is the fourth and the fifth one. This is my final one that I was most excited with. It's going to be displaced in matte white. It's in processing on powder right now, but I chose to go with a little bit more of a natural setting for a piece. I think I need to work on it a little bit more still. It's still very thin. It's a continuing process, but it's in working. And then this is what I've been experimenting with a little bit more, but I've kind of run out a little bit of time. But I tried a thicker slab and then chamfering the corners and edges to give it the effect that it's still very thin without it being too thin.
just the way you spoke is really good. You had eye contact, and you're using your hands. And can you go back to like one of the earlier slides, please? Like your sketches. I thought your research was really good, and just sketching with like the plants in mind too, I thought was really good. Because you're clearly illustrating like how like what you're imagining in your head, and that's like really important. Because it's not just the form, you're actually taking into consideration like, you know, the kind of like the poetic marriage between like the object that you're creating and like what you're putting in it for the user, and I thought that was really great. And also, can you go to like the next slide? Just one back. Just kind of imagining. I think you're saying you're imagining your vessels in these type of places.
Yeah, kind of taking it.
So that's like really important too. Like when you're designing something, thinking about the user or specifically like what you're designing for. And that really tells the story. Either even like making it up afterwards, just as like a presentation. It's like a huge selling point. Like that's really important. Imagine where your piece, like the environment, is going to inhabit.
And that's your Ikebana vessel.
Yeah.
Right there on the bottom left is your Ikebana vessel.
Yeah.
Right? Am I making this up, or was that?
No, I'm sure. Yeah.
Okay. You see what I'm talking about? This here, this atrium here, was the source of inspiration for my Ikebana exploration.
Can you go a couple slides over where you're showing the different?
So there you go.
Like here, this is good. So this is. I thought it was really cool to see the evolution of where you started and where you finished, and you know your illustrations of like how you figured out, hey, like I'm focusing too much on design, and just your growth from there into like focusing on how to work with material. I thought that was very important. The only thing for these slides is that I'm not seeing the different sides of it. Like you wouldn't necessarily look at this vessel from the bird's eye view. So maybe if you could have like another view from the side, rather than kind of photographic view, that would be really good.